So we continue on this idea of no more looky-loos, this being our third session. So for those of you that haven't had a chance to attend our first couple, of course there are recordings both on our YouTube channel, and feel free to reach out to us directly and we can help you get a link to be able to listen to it. But let's do a quick review of what we've been talking about. This whole idea of moving people through a process to buying a business, buying a franchise, and what prevents them from doing so, and the process that could help get more people past this looky-loo-ism and into a curiosity zone and the idea of buying a business. So we all have a comfort zone that we live and operate by. What creates that comfort zone is a wall of fear that prevents us from stepping out and doing things that are different or outside of our normal way of living our lives or creating an income. So this wall of fear holds us in. So the idea is, how do we get people out of that comfort zone, on top of that wall of fear, even climbing it and moving over it, and into this curiosity zone and into this learning zone where they're open to purchasing a business. So when we look at the word curiosity, basically curiosity is that urge that draws us out of our comfort zone, and fear is that agent that keeps us within its boundaries. So our job as franchise brokers, franchise development folks, franchise marketers, is to encourage curiosity so we can come above that wall of fear and move into a place where we're pondering the idea of buying a business. So there are two primary motives that will have someone move into curiosity and into learning and into pondering buying a business. First, it's the values of that individual. Values are the prime directives or the motives or the psychological drivers that cause all of our behaviors. It really is truly the only true predictor of behavior is what somebody's values are. And our values will dictate what motivates us. So we can get people over that wall of fear into curiosity, learning about our business opportunity by stimulating their values, which is what we're going to talk about today. Last session, we talked about triggering fear and how fear actually can create a level of curiosity if stimulated well. Fear can also have someone pull back, but fear also creates a level of let's investigate, let's look at things. So there's two faces to fear. The one that has us withdraw and become a possum or flee, and another one that has us fight. So if we're in the process of looking at a business and we are triggered by fear, sometimes we'll go right back into that comfort zone and hole up. But the kind of fear we talked about in our last session is the kind of fear that you can trigger through your marketing efforts and your sales efforts that has you encourage your prospective franchisee to investigate. What is that bump in the night? I want to check it out. So we don't want to trigger the fear that causes someone to flee or to fight and go back to a comfort zone, but instead to investigate. So let's dig more deeply into this idea of a comfort zone. No doubt you've already figured out that a comfort zone, it has various sizes depending on an individual. Some of us have large comfort zones in terms of our ability to take a risk. Others of us have very small comfort zone, but we do know comfort zone affects every single area of our life, and specifically in the area of considering buying a business. So what I can tell you about this comfort zone, there are two primary ways that people operate to kind of bang up to the edges of that comfort zone and step out to a place of taking a risk, to a place of learning, to a place of curiosity. And one is by looking towards the goals, towards the results, towards the benefits of taking that risk. So we are willing to get out of our comfort zone if indeed we can see that the benefits, the results of doing so outweigh the pain or discomfort of still being within that comfort zone. So we might call this a carrot, right? These are the values that we can dangle in front of someone to tempt them to come out of the comfort zone and to begin to be curious and investigate. Last session we talked about how to do that through fear. This session we're going to talk about how to do that through values. Now, of course, there are some folks, the only way you get them out of their comfort zone is by inflicting pain, by showing them all the horrible things that they want to get away from, a controlling boss, not being respected, not having enough freedom. So some of that, again, we addressed in the last session, and I want to address it a little bit further in this session. So it's kind of that carrot versus stick idea. The stick being the fears and all the values and motives that get people out of their comfort zone that actually inflict some level of pain or discomfort before someone does something. So think of it in terms of having a weight problem. For someone, they may not do something about being overweight until their blood pressure goes up or until they've been humiliated or embarrassed. That would be considered a stick that motivated them to do something. A carrot, on the other hand, could be I'm going to look fantastic and I'm going to be able to wear that great dress, or I'm going to be able to walk into that party and be, you know, the belle of the ball, so to speak. So the carrot versus the stick. So bottom line, what we want to consider here is the smaller the comfort zone, the faster someone can take action. Please take note of that. The smaller the comfort zone, the faster this prospect is going to take action. If they are sitting on a pile of cash in their bank account, they have a cushy job or their spouse has a cushy job, and there's really nothing that's motivating them or driving them or any great value for them to do anything different, that it's just, you know, I'm going to check out a business and maybe if something hits me the right way, I will look at it more seriously, then the likelihood is their decision is going to be long in the coming. So we want to get their comfort zone as small as possible, as fast as possible. And so the question then might be, how do we do that? How do we make this comfort zone smaller so they take faster action? I'm sure you've had prospective franchisees where they have this huge comfort zone, sitting on a large cash, sitting on a job, having a spouse that's still working, no real pain motivators, no real value motivators that are moving them down the path. So how do we reduce that comfort zone where they make a decision in the next 3 to 6 months versus we're having them in the pipeline for 2 years, right? And possibly not making a decision at all. So there are 4 primary ways. One is, of course, create curiosity. We're going to talk about that every single time and give you more tips and tricks around that. 2 is to leverage their values. All decisions come from our values. Values create our motives. So if we understand their values, we understand how to motivate them either through pain or through pleasure. 3rd, we trigger just enough fear that it creates this investigative side of us where we're curious about something. Not so much fear that they withdraw and go back into the comfort zone, but instead they step out and they become curious. 4th, we build confidence. And confidence is built through a learning process. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today and address it again in the 4th session. So if you're more interested in the curiosity and triggering fear pieces, go back and listen to session 1 and session 2. Today, let's talk about motives. Let's talk about drivers and what can be done to leverage those drivers and leverage those values based on your unique persona of your prospective franchisee. The first persona is what we call a belonger persona. This is a Stanford research model that I'm sharing with you. And the idea is that the belonger is motivated, makes all his decisions around family, security, team, God, country, loyalty, dependability, consistency, all of his decisions, how he spends his time, money, and energy, and things that he's going to be curious about and things that he's going to be interested in will be based around these kinds of values. These values will drive them to make their day-to-day decisions and move them through their due diligence process. The more you can trigger these values and the more you can dangle using a carrot these values, the more they're going to stay engaged in the process and not go south. Additionally, if we don't provide these values to the belonger, then they go south. If they can't see that being in your organization, it makes them feel like they're part of an extended family, or that they're part of a team, or that your business is one that can provide them security, or there's some longevity to your business where they can feel safe and secure, they're going to go south. They're not going to be engaged. You're not going to be curious enough to look at your concept any further. So some of the things that you can leverage in terms of dangling these values is if indeed the belonger is your ideal prospective franchisee, or you're dealing with them as a franchise broker and you're trying to place them in the right concept, is you want to look at what motivates and drives them, including things like safety and dependability. So in that case, in our marketing efforts, in our sales efforts, in our storytelling, we're going to talk about things that the belonger is interested in, that this is a proven concept. It's got some historical basis. It is a hands-on business. It's a relationship business. It's a business where we're part of a team, a part of a family, or we can include our family. So when you're looking at your marketing, you're looking at your sales process, you are highlighting these values of proven, practical, team, family, consistency, safety, dependability, loyalty, hard work kind of feeling. So that what we're building around them is a carrot that is so large that they step out of that comfort zone of keeping that 9-to-5 job and say, you know what, if I step into this idea of buying a business, or at least become curious enough to investigate it, I can see that this business provides me security, safety, team, family. So all of our marketing and all of our sales approaches should be triggering these values in the belonger. If you're talking about things that are off value, off purpose, inconsistent with the belonger, they don't even hear you. If you're a belonger, you can relate to this. If you're not a belonger, you can relate to this. That if somebody's talking about these values and that's not who you are, it kind of like duck on the waters, a water on a duck's back. This slide here, I want to just bring up very quickly. We addressed some of this in our last session, but we talked about triggering through a carrot approach these values, but we also want to trigger some of the fears, making sure it's just enough that it creates curiosity, but not so much that they go back into their comfort zone. The fears, of course, for the belonger were his fear of being separated from family, that we were putting him in a business where he can't go to Johnny's soccer game. We don't want to be demonstrating that through marketing or through our sales process. Or his inability to provide for his family, where we're putting any of his life savings or home at risk. We want to avoid any of that being triggered. And we also want to make sure that we're cautious about showing a sense of team and or triggering how he or she does not have that sense of team or that sense of family or that sense of consistency or the sense of stability within his current situation, current business, current job, whatever he is doing. So I wanted to give you a quick example of what this looks like, and this is actually one that Chris pulled up for us the other day, so I really appreciate that, Chris. To leverage these values and to stimulate curiosity. When you get a moment, go to YouTube and pull up the Budweiser Born the Hard Way commercial and just really pay attention to it, in that it clearly demonstrates a marketing campaign directed at this belonger. It is all about hard work. It's all about tradition. It's all about history. You can see right here, we got a business plan written out in an old book that is yellowed and crumpled up in this screenshot. But the whole commercial is around longevity, which creates safety. It's about doing it together. Almost every shot is a shot of several men and people coming together to build this Budweiser brand that they have. So when you get a moment, check it out. Even the title, Born the Hard Way, triggers the belonger, because for them it's about hard work, it's about commitment, it's about doing day in and day out what is right to build that business. So if you look at this commercial, it'll give you an idea of how marketers today are triggering through everything from language to music to colors to messaging, the values that will engage a particular audience. As a franchisor, knowing who your audience is, who your ideal candidate is, will allow you then to have your marketing and sales efforts be more consistent with that.